Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, special guests. Welcome to Roma's Queensland Small Business Week event, and what a week it has been. Thank you so very much, all of you, for joining us today. We have had events like this right across the state all week, and we've had a wonderful turnout just like this. So thank you, each and every one of you, for being with us today. My name is Victoria Carthew, and it is my pleasure to be your MC today as we turn your ideas into action. The 2014 Queensland Small Business Week has been 5 days of celebrating the contribution small business makes to the Queensland economy and is devoted to helping small business have a very big future. Queensland, we've learnt some amazing facts about us this week. Small business employs around 1 million people. Brisbane alone has around 115,000 businesses and startups, but across Queensland, and that includes this wonderful area, around 403,000 small businesses. This year, the event has grown and expanded quite incredibly, over 240 events hosted during the week, and we've seen webinars, lunches like this, breakfasts, workshops, and plenty of networking, which has been really wonderful. And today is one of the last events of the week. What a great place to finish up. And you've turned on the weather, so thank you. Although they tell us it's been a little bit chilly the last couple of mornings, so thank you yes. We didn't mind it at all. Today in Roma, we are going to hear from 3 amazing and rather inspiring small business leaders, their ideas and the paths they have taken to success. In the folder on your table in front of you, you all have your little folder. Take it out. There's lots of room there to jot down your ideas, your questions, your quotes, the things you can take away from today. We'll also have a question and answer session later from our speakers, so write down anything along the way that sticks in your mind, and you'll have some time at the end of the day to help turn those ideas into actions. Now, it has been an enormous week for our Minister Jan Stuckey. She has been traversing the state, and I know she's being put to work tomorrow as well, and she'll tell you all about that in a moment. But this is absolutely her baby. She's very passionate about all that's been done this week and promoting the virtues and values of small business, and we're very, very thrilled that she was able to make it to Roma today. Would you please welcome to the stage the Honourable Jan Stuckey, Minister for Tourism, Major Events, Small Business and the Commonwealth Games.
I made it up here before you finished. Thank you. Wow, it is fantastic to be here. It really is, and I have to say, it's you sort of say to yourself, why haven't I been here more? And before, and I've just met some amazing people already today, and I know we have a room full of them. Thank you so much, Victoria. It's great to be working with you again at the second Small Business Week. Could I acknowledge, of course, my good friend and somebody who is a champion for this electorate and a very, very strong voice in the Queensland Parliament, and that, of course, is Howard Hobbs, MP, the member for Warrego. You may applaud. Hobbsy was saying, you don't come out my way, and I said, right, we're going to land a big lunch for you. We're going to make sure that we wrap up Small Business Week in a very special place, and so it's great to be here with you today, Howard. It's also terrific to see the Mayor of Maranoa Regional Council here, Councillor Robert Loughnan. It's terrific to see the support that you have been giving to the small businesses in this region as well. To the fellow speakers here today, and of course, you know, it's been terrific to get to know Matthew Hayden a little bit better today as well. I'm really looking forward to what he has to say. Of course, I'm also looking forward to hearing from Mark Huntley, who I've just met, and Ben Sorensen is with us today too. But I know that there's a lot of stories in this room, and we look forward to exploring more of those as we go through the lunch. So today it's the Turn Your Ideas into Action lunch. We have had everything from small tigers to entrepreneurs to acceleration to just about everything else. But today it's about turning your ideas into action. So here we are in 2014 Queensland Small Business Week. It's terrific to see the strength of our small business and have so many local representatives and supporting organisations in this room. And I understand this was a sporting centre, in fact, an indoor cricket, so I figure Matt is going to feel pretty at home. This is converted into a very, very smart and sophisticated conference centre. We all know that small businesses are an integral part of the supply chains that develop and support the competitiveness of Queensland's economy, and none are more critical to their local economy than those in country regions. Last year, our inaugural 2013 Queensland Small Business Week featured 91 events and attracted more than 4,500 participants. I take great pride in telling you this year that we have more than 240 events and activities being delivered across the state. These events are dedicated to people like yourselves, small business owners, managers, employees, giving each of us an opportunity to network and learn about growing a business, gaining ideas and inspiration, and accessing information and, importantly, support. This lunch is not just about the week, but about ongoing recognition of small business in Queensland. As a government, we recognise their role in what makes our state so great. Many of my colleagues come from a small business background, just like I do. Today, you're going to hear from renowned cricketer turned businessman Matthew Hayden and about he turned his passion for cooking and media into successful businesses. Closer to home, we have Mark Huntley of Pumps and Solar, who acknowledges that by thinking outside of the square, businesses can reap the rewards of the opportunities out there. And he's going to provide an insight into how he turned his ideas into a successful enterprise. And Ben Sorensen from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Director of Innovation and Digital Change. Where would we be without that in today's fast-moving society? So today's luncheon allows us not only to hear about developing successful business models, but to talk to others in the local business network and discuss opportunities and new directions. No matter where I travel throughout this amazing state, networking with other business owners is rated a key benefit of their survival, but also their success. And so as much as we embrace our technology, we still need to talk to each other. And I really mean talk to each other, not engage in dialogue just on the net. On Tuesday, I launched Shining Bright, a unique publication which showcases some of our diverse Queensland small businesses and tells their stories and experiences. Today, each of you will find a copy of the book in the guest pack at your tables. The publication is also available as an ebook on the small business page of the Business and Industry portal run by my department. A successful Roma business is profiled in Shining Bright. Roma, Wire and Steel. It is a story that embodies the significance of small businesses and entrepreneurship in making local communities like yours what they are. And it's wonderful to have Jamie and Natalie Dingle here with us today. I hope you're happy with how we have interpreted your business in our very special publication. Small business is anything but small, though. It accounts for about 95% of all Queensland businesses. There's over 400,000 small businesses across the state, delivering a diverse range of goods and services across all sectors. Here in Roma alone, there's 1,100 small businesses, and in the state electorate of Warrego, there are 6,900 small businesses. The Queensland Government, your state government, is committed to growing our four-pillar economy of tourism, resources, agriculture and construction, and many local businesses here are operating in or supporting these sectors. Today's small businesses face a range of international challenges, from global economic uncertainty to the high Australian dollar, and each region faces its own unique challenges and opportunities. And I recognise, as do other members of the Newman government, that the local Roma community has had its fair share of challenges and flood events and hardship over the last few years. My colleague, the Honourable David Crisafulli, the Minister for Local Government, Community Recovery and Resilience, has been instrumental in working with your Mayor and the Maranoa Regional Council to provide significant funding towards the earth levy that protects homes and businesses in Roma. I'm very pleased to say the Queensland Government is working on a number of initiatives, with your council of course, to provide a climate in which businesses can grow and prosper. We're continuing to deliver on our commitment under the Queensland Small Business Strategy and Action Plan 2013 to 15, the very first of such plans in many years for small business. But in particular, I mentioned the payroll tax threshold, which has been increased from $1 million to 1.1, resulting in 90% of Queensland employers now being exempt from paying the tax. We're also focusing on simplifying how business is done by reducing red tape by 20% over 6 years. We want to get out of your way and out of your pockets so you can get on with what you do best, and that is generating a healthy profit and bottom line. Some of the things we have done though, and there's several hundred of them, and I've got Tristan from my office here today and he can rattle off all 490 for you. Just push the right button. There you are, Tristan. And I warned you we'd do this one day. But what we have done is streamline mining approvals through the My Mines online system. It reduces time and money spent by small mining operations on applying for mining permits and approvals, enabling them to spend more time on running their business. We have simplified a more flexible framework for opal and gemstone miners. Under a package of reforms, low risk and low impact small-scale opal and gemstone mining operations on a mining claim are now not required to hold an environmental authority. And this is all wonderful, and so are the 490 that we've already cut, but if we're to get to that 20%, and that's 20% of 92,000 pages imposed on us by Labor, then we need your help. We need your help to identify the cumbersome and duplicative red tape and regulations that drive you nuts on a daily basis, and we will do our best across government to get rid of what we can for you. In my department, we have a business and industry portal, or BIP, which is the one-stop shop with 800 online resources. I've mentioned that with the businesses we visited today, and those who had explored it were amazed at the wealth of information and assistance on it. It is a seamless, integrated, single point of entry to the government's business services. I urge you all to visit it. Services on this portal include the Australian Business Licence and Information Services, known as ABLIS to most of you, and the Australian Business Account. Work is continuing to make the ABA a single location for business to manage all ongoing regulatory requirements. We also implemented the late payment policy to ensure that Queensland government departments don't delay in paying their bills to you, our small businesses, and we find ourselves if we are not on time. So all bills from small business suppliers to government involving contracts up to $1 million will be paid within 30 days so that you have the certainty that you need to make your confident planning decisions. We must also remember that 9 out of 10 tourism operators are small businesses. Domestic tourism accounts for some 80% of visitor spending in Queensland, with many rural and regional communities relying on revenue from drive tourism, including caravanning and camping. Based on the priorities identified at our annual forum, the government has implemented a new streamlined approval process for road signage on state-controlled roads to guide visitors to tourist attractions. On the way here, I was using a visitor information centre app, and sure enough, yours came up. We'd just driven past it, hadn't we, Hobbsy? And I said, I'll see if this little app works. It is another tool the government is providing to help visitors not just find your location, but be able to tap into the visitor information centres. It also supplies information about upcoming events, fairs, fetes, festivals and businesses. So if you haven't downloaded that app, please make sure you do. We've developed the Camping Options Toolkit, and I'm sure your council is familiar with this. So now we have a valuable resource to effectively manage camping in each area throughout Queensland. We understand that one size does not fit all. So our drive tourism strategy has resulted in significant growth of the number of domestic tourists who travel throughout the state, and I'm sure you'd like more of them coming through your patch. We're also doing our bit to stimulate sustainable growth and help small business position themselves to get their fair share of work with major projects. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of the Industry Capability Network, or the ICN, but the government is working through that to provide opportunities for small business to tap into major project supply chains. We're also working hard to foster economic growth in the regions through the Regions Q framework, and it's great to see some of our government representatives here today. We understand that while government can provide a climate for growth and development, it is ultimately businesses which will drive innovation and industry diversification, which will in turn open up new jobs and opportunities. Just before I close, I want to make special mention of Buy Locally Saturday. It's happening tomorrow. This is part of our government's Think Queensland, Buy Locally campaign. It's a partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Queensland. We're encouraging, on an ongoing basis, consumers to support their local economy by buying locally. Every single dollar that is spent at a locally owned business generates 5 for your local community. The ripple effect is phenomenal. You can support all things that make your community great by supporting your local businesses. Can I thank you very much for coming along today. It's wonderful to be here with my good friend, Howard Hobbs, and to be able to meet so many of you. As a small business owner myself, I know so much of what you do isn't just driven by the tills and the money that you make. It's driven by the heart, because you know that it is pretty much your business that underpins the entire economy of Queensland, and we love you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, very much indeed. And I was just thinking about my last trip to Roma, and I was trying to think what I was last here for, and it was Queensland Weekend, and we came out to Plantarama. We were doing a story on your wonderful bottle trees. I went out to Bindaroo, to the nursery, and it was just an amazing insight into a business that has grown by something you already had, but finding a different way to make it happen. And I'm sure our Mayor has lots of stories just like it. So would you please welcome to the stage your Mayor, Robert Loughnan.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Roma and the Greater Maranoa region, and on behalf of Council, I'd like to welcome all of you to today's luncheon, celebrating 2014 Small Business Week. It's been a terrific week with a number of functions in town, leading into that Buying Local Saturday tomorrow. And for the males in the room, or the fathers in the room, I understand Father's Day follows on shortly afterwards, so it's going to be a great week for some of us. So before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the following special guests: the Honourable Jan Stuckey MP, Minister for Tourism, Major Events, Small Business and the Commonwealth Games. Acknowledge Howard Hobbs MP, Member for Warrego for the past 28 years. Sharon Garrett, here from Commerce Roma. Former Roma Mayor Bruce Garvey. Can I just acknowledge Bruce, because he is a very prominent small businessman in this community. He's done a lot for this community. Current councillors, Councillor Joy Denton, Councillor Cameron O'Neill, and our speakers tonight. Matt Hayden, no stranger to anyone in the room, although very few of us until today have probably met you, Matt, but welcome. Mark Huntley and Ben Sorensen. Don't go thinking because you're the last on the list there's going to be less interest in what you've got to say tonight after Matt. I know everyone will be hanging on here until the very end. So first and foremost, I need to welcome Minister Stuckey to Roma, the central hub of the Maranoa region. I think the last time most of the people in the room would have seen you, Jan, was at the Commonwealth Games closing ceremony, accepting the invitation to host the next Games at the Gold Coast, and we acknowledge the work you're doing with that. I was proud. I was very proud. In fact, yours was the only accent I could understand out of all the speakers on the day. They really should have put an interpreter on, Victoria. I think that would have been a good thing to do. Look, we're honoured. We're delighted to host such a fantastic event as this, and I hope you, Minister, enjoy your time in this southwest corner with Hobbsy. So the Maranoa is a dynamic and vibrant regional community covering an area of over 58,000 square kilometres, and it's home to approximately 13,000 residents. From proud history built on agriculture and gas mining, the region continues to grow and prosper as a result of abundant natural resource assets and a diversified, stable industry base. The energy boom being experienced across the Surat Basin, while valuable for the wealth of the region, has presented significant challenges for council and for local businesses alike. However, I believe we're all meeting these challenges head on, and the innovation, determination and resilience shown by our residents, our community groups, and the businesses throughout the region represented in this room continues to amaze me. So today's event celebrates the important role that small businesses play in Queensland and regional communities such as the Maranoa. There are two definitions that can be used to describe small to medium enterprises. businesses that employ fewer than 200 staff and turn over less than $100 million on an annual basis. And in my opinion, those definitions don't adequately demonstrate the abundance of sole traders and very small firms that contribute greatly to this economy. According to ABS data, in June 2013, over 2,200 businesses in the Maranoa employed fewer than 5 staff. This indicates that approximately 92% of our region's output, or $1.2 billion, is generated by these micro firms on an annual basis. Small businesses are incredibly important for our local, state and federal economies, and it's imperative that adequate support and information is available so they can evolve to meet the needs of the dynamic consumer landscape. A series of business support workshops is facilitated every year through Council's partnership with the state government, with Commerce Roma and the Western Star. In 2014-15, we'll work on a one-on-one basis with participating businesses to help them achieve their goals for the financial year. And if you're interested in participating, staff members from the Department of State Development, Infrastructure and Planning, or from Council will be happy to provide further information. In addition to that initiative, the Queensland Government maintains an expansive collection of business literature and how-to guides on the business.qld.gov.au website. It's well worth taking the time to check out the templates and the guides that are on offer to the business community for free. They might just have the answers you're looking for. And finally, I'd like to encourage businesses to check out Council's My Maranoa app for smartphones. The app is free to download from Google and iTunes stores, and it's a great tool, a fantastic tool to expand your client base by developing a digital presence and advertising contact details, opening hours and services rendered. Being situated on the crossroads of 2 major tourist thoroughfares, the app is useful for businesses to reach travellers who may not possess local knowledge, as the Minister was looking for earlier today, about the services that are on offer throughout the Maranoa. The listings on the business directory are free and registration is very, very simple. Just follow the links on Council's website. So Small Business Weeks are great opportunities to celebrate and acknowledge the hard work of our local business owners and their continued dedication to the betterment of our community. Operating a small business in a regional area can be tough, but I believe it's a very rewarding experience, or it certainly can be. Congratulations to all of you who are committed to succeeding in this region and in this environment. To all the small business operators in this community, Council is determined to keep working with you. Thank you for joining us, and please enjoy the meal and the remainder of today's program. Thanks, Victoria.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, sorry to interrupt your lunch. It's lovely to see everyone catching up and seeing old friends. It is time now to get our luncheon back underway, and time, if they've cleared your plates, time to pull out your notepads, your notebooks, and take some notes and scratch down those questions, because it is time for the first of our 3 very special guests. Our first presenter today, as the Minister said, needs very little introduction, a proud Queenslander. He won our hearts on the cricket pitch, an extraordinary talent who never gave up and went on to become one of the best batsmen our nation has produced. Life post-cricket has been equally successful, doing things the Hayden way. He's a brand ambassador, a cook, an author, a TV personality and a champion of charity, I have to say. He's also a dad and a husband and a damn terrific bloke, and we are so pleased he could be with us today to turn your ideas into action. Would you please welcome Matthew Hayden, AM.
Deathly silence before one has to speak. Thanks, Vic. You are a star as well. We were kids, weren't we, kiddo? 71 was a good year, they reckon. But Vic and I grew up in the media industry and different ends of the stick, I suppose. But obviously me as a player and Vic, within presenting roles within the networks. Turn your ideas into action. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me. My first idea here is come to the country more often. That's my first idea. You know, what a special place. We've had some really fun times this morning talking to Plash. Your secret's safe with me, love, I can assure you of that. We've got Gary and his beautiful wife at the Jewellers. We spoke to those guys and we visited how we visited your central think tank offices, which was also a lot of fun. But, for me, coming to the bush is something really special. Growing up in Kingaroy, Mum and Dad, by the way, are still out there. There's just something wholesome and warm. I mean, you can have any words you want, but basically, you're bloody good people, and you wrap your arms around anyone that comes out here, and it makes me think of home, which I've got to say was a great memory. I've got one confession to make though before I begin. I told some of the guys this earlier, so please forgive me. My one memory of Roma, which was crushed today. Crushed, Hobbsy, that was you, bud. Crushed because I thought that I was actually in Roma when I was on my way to Tambo. My uncle and auntie owned a big cattle station out there called Gartmore. They were Santa Gertrudis stud. And my grandmother, who was living with us on our country property, she'd make these beautiful sandwiches. You know the kind that you used to get as a kid with the big white slices of bread? And then there's more butter than what there is actually ham on it, and some cucumber, and a little bit of salt and pepper, like sprinkled on with love. And we're on our way out there. Pretty decent drive, I've got to say. But we stopped at this park, and the park was what I thought at the time had an old train in it. And I thought, beauty, I'll be able to start my presentation. That's my one memory of Rome. Well, it turns out it was in Mitchell. So I have no memory of Roma, embarrassingly. Can you believe that? No memory. So, they were great times, though, for me to travel through. When I got forced, I say this in a good way, but I got forced out of Kingaroy without any doubt. Mum and Dad were fourth generation property owners out there, small lot holding, you guys know the score, two brothers, really not enough revenues to really stay on the land. We grew peanuts and navy beans through that sort of, winter crossover summer period, and then peanuts, through the summer and then into the winter. But Mum said to me, mate, you got to leave, your future's not going to be here. And begrudgingly, I've got to say, I went down to Marist College at Ashgrove, and I had my last 2 years at boarding school there. And, in a lot of ways, it's a common story, but it's actually a really sad story as well, because, you know what, the land, it lives and breathes inside you, doesn't it? It's just so, it's so real, and it's so tangible. In a world that seems to deal in a whole lot of intangible assets, and, we're all online and we're doing this and that, seems to be so busy, I'm now wrapped up in that world, and I guess in some ways I have some regrets about it, but, she was a really, really smart woman, my mother, because, to go off there and to see that vision for me as a young fella was probably the most important step of my life. I've got a great saying, it's by Socrates, and it says, "I'm the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing." Ricky Ponting, the Australian cricket captain, he candidly said this in a way that could only be done in a dressing room. He says, "Yeah, Haydos, what he's trying to say there is that you can't bullshit bullshitters." And I guess, there's 1,000 people, most in this room, that are more qualified, to talk about small business and the capabilities of. But I've got to admit, I've had a very, very interesting life. And it's been a life that's really, in essence, been about three things. It's been about belief, it's been about hard work, and it's also been about talent. And translated into a business terminology, I guess it's about risk or / guts, opportunity, and a really good product. And I'm sure we're going to hear about, from the gentleman behind me about, having really good product. So, my first step into life out of the country, as I mentioned, was to Ashgrove. And, I guess this is where I talk about risk. Risk insofar as that I'll never forget my first day at Ashgrove at boarding school. I was in this big flat area called the Flats. You had to cross this little kind of weighbridge, and I was sitting down on this timber post, which was made of telegraph poles, and I was sobbing my eyes out because I did not want to leave the bush. And I was punching on. The very first day that I was there, I was involved in all these sort of scraps because blokes, they love to mark their territory and they'd been there for ages. And so it became, about the pecking order. And I was just really shattered and really not knowing, feeling actually rather quite hopeless. But, I guess no guts, no glory, eh? Just to have that sort of rolling up your sleeves and have a crack kind of mentality. Plus, momentum is just the king in life, without any doubt. So, for me, the funny thing about momentum is once you have it, you can't actually lose it. And once you lose it, you can never actually get it. So I felt like I had quite a lot of this negative momentum around that time. But in essence, I guess out of adversity came this great opportunity because you wouldn't believe it. Well planned, Mum and Dad, pat yourselves on the back. Valley's Cricket Club was just right there. A very famous old club, had some of the great names like the Kepler Wessels, the Allan Borders, just, fabulous role models and leaders within the cricketing community. So, I guess they just gave me such an awesome introduction to a sporting life outside of school. And of course, that had challenges as well, without banging on about it. I just recently sat with one of the principals of a very prominent school in Brisbane who was my boarding master. And he leant over, I was doing a presentation that evening, he leant over and he says, "Oh, mate, just want to apologise to you." And I went, oh, what for? He says, "I was pretty hard on you, wasn't I? I guess, Ashgrove being Ashgrove, it was all about the school tie and you know what, you had this ability that was shining brighter than any star that you can imagine. And I didn't want to diminish it, but I wanted to sort of rein you in because structurally it's also important to love your school and, that was important to me and that's how I stand." And I said, "Oh, mate, don't flatter yourself with all due respect." I said, "You were just the start of what was going to be a fantastic life lesson. And then I was going to be punching on with people exactly like you. I appreciate you apologising, but I was going to be punching on through life. I was going to be punching on through Vic journos sitting there just disbelieving with the fact that I was going to play cricket for Australia. I'd have you guys laughing at me, and I didn't blame them because, deep down I thought, gee, maybe I wasn't going to play for Australia and I was going to be probably pretty happy with that as well. But, you've just got to get up. You've got to take that risk. You've got to get that momentum in life. And look, cricket at the time when I was a kid, and I was lucky enough to play through 3 successive eras of cricket. The first was non-professional. The second, naturally, was semi-professional, if you like. And finally, fully professional. But that wasn't remembered until about 96, 97. So my first contract for Australia was $11,000. And I was subsidising, I was working at bars. In fact, I was a bouncer, a pretty bad one at that. My last day at bouncing, I got held up at a bottle shop at the Royal Hotel in Nunda. And I followed this guy up to the pub, and he had this big trench coat on, and he pulled out these Jack Daniel bottles. He was sitting there drinking Jack Daniels at the bar before we kicked him out. Anyways, I got later subpoenaed because this bloke had actually held up the taxi on the way home. So I thought maybe that's a good way to end my attending career. But at the time it was a big risk, because I was at university as well at QUT doing a marketing degree and government as well, ironically. But for me, I was sitting in this classroom and I'll never forget the last day. I thought I'd negotiated well with the Dean of Faculty, and his name was Sumong Wong. So he obviously knew quite a lot about cricket. Not. So what happened was that I thought I'd negotiated this deal whereby they had 50% of the component of the studies as being a tutorial component. And of course, they only offered that tutorial component on a Tuesday and Thursday night. So that was taboo for me because I was a young rookie playing for Queensland, and that was the training night. So I said, look, I'm happy to do work outside. How it's changed too, by the way. I mean, from a degrees point of view, how you can get online and you can study, it's just completely transformed that side of education. But it was about the contact hours, and it was about the tutorial component, a year-long subject. 50% of it was tutorial. Thought I'd negotiated up front, but got to the end of the paper, pulled out the paper and see the results. Big N, I think it was, for fail. So I march up there to Sumong Wong and I say, mate, what's going on? I thought I had a really good examination. He says, actually, you did. You passed with flying colours. But look, see here, you actually failed because you failed to attend any tutorial components. So that was it for me. I thought, I'm completely wasting my time sitting in this classroom, with a real passion and vigour for marketing too, I've got to say. But that was it for me. That was game over. But funny about, I guess, the twists of life, isn't it? Because, what a cracking decision to leave that day. And that phone call to my mother wasn't a particularly nice phone call. By the way, Mum and Dad, plus you were talking about this earlier on the day, you've just wasted 50 grand on my career, on my educational studies, and you haven't got it because you're scrapping day in, day out, and I know it. So that pressure feeling like, gee, I really feel like I'm letting the family down here in a lot of ways. I said, but I don't have it in me. I want to play cricket for Australia. Well, you could have heard a pin drop on the phone because my mum was just like, yes, anything that you actually do and you love it, you're going to be great at, son. So it was just such a relief, I guess, that phone call. But what a great call, because ultimately, it created, such an immensely rich platform. So in summary from the whole cricket, because I'd love to talk about cricket naturally all day, but in summary, I guess cricket provided me with, an enduring and diverse brand identity. And as a marketer, we all love to look at a brand and see the success or failure of it at times. It certainly gave me an understanding of the commercial benefits of entertaining content. So sitting out on these grounds right across the world, understanding that cricket is actually a branded media property. And interestingly, it used to, when I was first playing, had a model of a third. So third sponsorship, it had third gate, and it had third TV or media rights. So now that model is completely transformed into 85% media rights, and the difference between sponsorship and gate. I think gate's about 5%. So, ultimately it was a very shifting model as well. So firsthand, I got a great insight into standing across these grounds all over the world into what made an event work. What actually drove the relationship between a talent like myself and a customer. And when I started writing cookbooks, I'll never forget it, I was negotiating contracts with James Sutherland at the time, and he, it's very stern sort of meetings. There's the chairman of selectors, there's yourself, there's the captain, and there's the CEO of the company. And James just as candidly just said, look, we're really worried about your performances and your overall kind of demeanour. We feel like writing cookbooks is actually starting to distract you from what we need you to do. I said, what are you talking about? I said, not only, look, to be honest, I had great performances as well, so he actually factually wasn't right, but there was an opportunity for me to connect with people right across Australia, and my wife actually came up with that idea. She said, look, you love cooking, why don't you do cookbooks? So I thought, great, that's a great idea. What I do is I get people, of different countries, tell the stories, write the recipes, and it was something I was doing anyway. And then you wouldn't believe how many conversations then became, much more about food and the destinations and the people around the game and and that sort of space that are revolved around the game, and that's what I was obviously really, really passionate about. I guess the other thing as well is it developed for me, just an enormous contract registry. People, and I know I'm a bloke, I was saying this to Gary, very proud jeweller, and also fourth generation farmer here in Roma. And I said, mate, I love to unlock the keys to relationships, but I also really love to stand on my own 2 feet. There's nothing like in life being able to, look every man in the eye, say that you owe them nothing. And whilst I've developed some really fantastic relationships out of cricket, rarely, I've got to say, and probably to my disadvantage, I'd also have to say that I don't like to unlock the key unless I can bring something to the table to add value. It's really what I love doing. And I guess, make no bones about it, commercially, cricket, whilst it was non-professional at the time, cricket was a risk then, but it became, such an enormous asset because ultimately I could make revenues based only on myself. So if I had a good day in the office, then there would be rewards out of it. It was a really simple, there were no overheads. All of those overheads were carried by cricket, naturally wrapped up in the costs of their business to bring that product to life. But I became, someone that was really financially independent. And you've got to have great people around you, don't you? And luckily, I had some really, really trusted financial advisors, which ultimately meant that talking to Momentum meant that I was actually able to really absorb myself into making good investments, annuity-style income, and here I am standing on my own 2 feet. In 2000, and also without trying to neglect the game, the other versions of the game as well, beyond cricket game, were the IPL and the EPL and all of these things that really challenged the way that the current landscape of cricketers were thinking. So, we're talking about short windows of time. So after 2009, when I retired, I had 2 or 3 years of playing international cricket, and it was more financial to play 2 months of cricket for those particular franchises than what it was actually to pay the whole year for Australia. But being opportunistic, I guess, in some ways by nature, what that meant was that I was able to use those revenues to fund my business. Everyone needs a start in life, and I think mine was probably the IPL, frankly, because in 2009 I started up the Hayden Way, which was a boutique talent agency. Boutique, when I say that, meaning it managed me. So there wasn't like a whole suite of talent, that was really, there, and I had a business model around it. It was much more simpler than that. It was just about how it is that I could look at something which I actually didn't believe that had great integrity at the time, and that was the talent management kind of agency sort of space. I felt that ambassadorial kind of role and how that was making me feel, certainly as the client within the business, but also the end game as well, being businesses that entrusted me to actually bring to life their campaigns. I thought that there was a little bit of a mismatch there, and a lot of that time I was driving those relationships as well, so I wasn't needing to be protected by an agency. I was there again, standing on my 2 feet, having my 2 bob worth, and actually wanting to drive those relationships and bring value to it. So it was initially set up just to manage my own work-life relationship, which was pretty simple. And Vic, we were talking about this morning in the Qantas Lounge. I get my diary, and this is a bit decadent, I've got to say. I get my diary and I say, when are the kids on vacation? Because that's annual leave. I also look at it and think, what's actually going to make me really happy as a person? And that is that I love being physical. I love being outside. I love getting outside and just having a go at life. So what time is that going to take? So that was the second question. And actually, then I started to look at, well, in a relationship sense, not only with my wife, but a number of other people as well, how do I prioritise time so that I'm spending the time? Like, how often do we say, we'll catch up with our mates? We don't. We don't until we go to their funeral. And that's something which I just thought, you know what, no way. I'm now, yes, I'm privileged. I've got this great position in life to be a part of and to do the things that I want to do, within business. And I've got this great momentum, but I needed to shift and focus my time on what I really wanted to drive and was really passionate about. So a takeaway message is to be passionate about what you do without any question and managing your time naturally. So I guess along with the commercial aspects of my own talent brand and the IP associated with that, were the altruistic campaigns that I've been associated with, some of which we drive and others of which we're associated with. So briefly, I encourage you to get online to see a project in Tiwi Islands we're talking about called tiwigardens.com. I really encourage you to get online and have a look at that. It's a small project that we've created similar to Matthew Hayden Home Ground, where I converted my backyard into a full kitchen garden and made a TV show out of it. The whole idea is to create a really safe, healthy, happy learning environment for 90 kids up in Tiwi Islands at the Tiwi College. Something I'm really proud of. We've raised a bit over $2 million, but we've saved, as we were saying, a lot more than we've actually raised. It's a magic model. It's a risk-free model, but it's a magic model as well. My association with Ronald McDonald House, we've got some big projects. Minister, you'll be well aware of the fact that we've got a big fundraiser that's on the table now to generate a little over $22 million to build the world's biggest house. And I'm passionate about that because I'm passionate about regional Australia. I'm passionate about the fact that families that are based, like mine were, come to the country, they come to the city, they can't afford things, so Ronald McDonald House is there to actually sweep them up, and to get involved in that program has been a great honour. PCFA, my father got diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2009. I've been lead on that project now for the last 2 years, and now we're starting to also contribute in developing content for them as well. But register at the moment, bigauzziebarbie.com. .au. You can host a barbie and raise some money. We raised about $1 million last year, which was outstanding. But we've got that target again to reach. So, I guess that side of my life came, just quickly with a story, came through watching my father at Mass on a Sunday give a lot more than what he actually made, or certainly what he could afford as well. And we would miss out. And I used to say to Dad, why are you doing that? And he said, son, there's no better feeling in life than giving, because the gift of giving is just, it comes back to you in other ways. And you know what? I look at my father's life and I think, you might not have multi-million-dollar balance sheets, but you've got a husband that loves, a wife that loves you, you've got 2 boys that love you, you've got a great property, which you are happy with, you've got a fantastic lifestyle, and you're healthy, happy. What more do you want? In reality. How am I going for time? Oh. Okay. I've got it's 20 minutes. It's a cruel time to talk, I've got to say. But look, quickly, if I can beg 2 minutes of your time. What I do now within business is run a content creative agency called the Get Outside Group. Funny enough, you know where the name comes from. It's in JV with one of Australia's biggest media partners, Southern Cross Media Group. We're really, in essence, the shop front, to what we believe is really important, and that is and our competitive set is production agencies, talent agencies, and media agencies, creative agencies, but we're a real end-to-end unit. So we provide and produce to market great media solutions and great value solutions as well. And all of those key learnings, I guess, that will wash through cricket were just so very, very special. Final comment, I've got a lot of memorabilia, as you can imagine. In fact, I had 15 full bags of memorabilia that were plaguing my wife. So she says, oh, for goodness sake, Matt, you've just got to get rid of this stuff, So I got a janitor to, produce an album that, did a full inventory of the products. And we're talking about like pulling stuff out of the bags. Oh, there's a World Cup winning shirt, with everyone sort of signed on it, with the AIDS flag. And it was just ridiculous, 380 bats and all this crazy stuff. But my favourite one I actually bought. And it's it's got an inspirational quote on it, and it sits right under this dodgy Chinese clock that I've got, sitting right where my office looks out in the office. And it costs about $10, by the way, at Bangalore Markets. It says, some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and others make it happen. And I think our egalitarian nature, the fact that we get in, have a crack, roll up our sleeves, we find solutions and address change in ways that no other country that I've been associated with on the planet can actually do, like Australians can do. But we've got big challenges. We're a bloody long way from the rest of the world, so we've got to be smarter than pretty much anyone else. But we have got a great community, and you guys are all a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. And 20 minutes is brutal because I think we could all probably keep listening to you all day. And if you don't feel kind of revved up to get outside now, then you never, ever will. So thank you. I think it's also wonderful to think of all those things you're doing, what your business is doing now, that I can't imagine that when you turned up at Ashgrove for senior school that you thought you'd be doing now in the media and all the other things you do. So thank you for sharing your story with us today. There are about just under 2,500 small businesses in this Roma area. One is featured in the lovely book, which the Minister spoke about earlier, which you'll receive on the way out. And the jingles are down the front. They'll sign autographs on the way out the door, won't you? Happy to do that. We're now going to hear from another of your small businesses. Mark Huntley is an icon in Roma. His business, Pumps and Solar, was established by Mark and Tim Sheridan in '96, starting out with a staff of one mechanic. The business has grown today to a team of over 15 skilled and experienced technical, sales and administration professionals who deal in all aspects of rural irrigation and watering design, equipment and servicing. The products, sales and services of Pumps and Solar are supported by Mark and Tim's combined experience of over 50 years in the industry. Boy, that makes you sound old. No, not at all. Would you please welcome to the stage one of your own, Mark Huntley.
Thank you, everyone. I feel a bit humbled by that, but that was a nice introduction. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I'd like to acknowledge our special guests that have arrived today from out of town and from in town. I'd like to just share with you today just what I probably would consider maybe a small business, like a textbook success story. Sounds a bit indulgent to say that, but I think with the benefit of hindsight, I can look at what we've achieved over the last 20 odd years and look back and think, yeah, that's pretty much how things should unfold. We certainly haven't got everything right along the way, but we've tried pretty hard and we put in some hard work. And I think it's just good to see how things unfold. And like I say, on the day you don't quite realise all the decisions that you make, how much difference they're going to make down the track. But yeah, I can look back and think we made some good decisions and how we've seen some opportunities and run with those opportunities. So Tim and I, my business partner Tim Sheridan and I, started our business. We've been trading for say 18 and a half years, but we probably started 19 years ago when we started pre-preparing for our business. We both identified that there was an opportunity in Roma. Tim's 10 years younger than me, and we both had a passion for what we do in terms of water supply equipment, and we're pretty confident in our ability to be able to deliver that to the people that needed our services and what we could do. But we had very little business experience. You know, we had a bit of an idea what goes on, but in terms of formal structure, we didn't have much of an idea about business at all, really. We both enrolled in a TAFE course called 21 Hours to Small Business Success, which was a reasonably basic sort of course, but it sort of got our ball rolling. And I know we spent, Tim was out of town at the time, and he came back to Roma every weekend for months on end. And we spent a lot of time just developing a business plan and actually forward planning about what we're going to do. And we got on the phone and we rang up people and asked if there was that sort of service available, would they use it? We walked around town asking for someone to do what it is that we do, and we couldn't get any satisfactory answers. So we identified that it was a really good opportunity. So we then developed a business plan. It was we actually still revisit that business plan today every now and then. It was a pretty comprehensive plan for its day. For us, it was 40, 50 pages. We went to the bank, cap in hand, and I remember walking out of there high-fiving, thinking it was pretty good because they were going to give us this huge amount of money, which, with the benefit of hindsight, probably wasn't a real lot of money on the day. I think the important thing that people need to realise is that you need to ask for help and get advice in business. I think I see it in town. As you get older, you see things that maybe you didn't see when you're younger, but there's plenty of people in town that either in business or want to start a business and don't ask for help. There's a whole plethora of help out there for people that can help you. We went to our accountant and said, this is our business plan, this is what we think we can do. And he said, well, if that's what you think you can do, this is how you should be structured, this is how you should be set up, this is the way you should loan the money, this is what entities you should do. Get that information even before you start, because there's plenty of people that are in wrong structures now just because they didn't ask the question up front. We've been to our banks, we've asked, you find out what your limits are, how much you can do, what you can and can't do, how you're going to finance cash flow. We went to the Maranoa Regional Council, who had a business development, it was the Roma Town Council on the day, had their business development officer, and he was a tremendous help for us. In fact, I'd suggest we wouldn't have been in the position we are today if it wasn't for his input into what we did. And his claim to fame on the day was that it wasn't the 40-odd businesses that he'd helped in the Maranoa to start up and get going and help them get along. It was probably the 100 or so businesses that he stopped from starting that were going to fundamentally fail for a whole plethora of reasons, or countless other reasons, because they hadn't planned, they hadn't done any structure, hadn't asked the questions, hadn't done all the due diligence that goes with that. I think you have to bear with me. My normal glasses broke on Monday. I haven't got them back. Yeah, so in terms of starting the business, don't be afraid to ask. It's just the smart thing to do. Tim and I started the business with just him and myself and a mechanic and my wife's input to get our business started. And today we have Tim and myself, and we have actually 23 staff. So we have to upgrade our website, I think, by the sound of that. So we have, and a wonderful staff, a very diligent staff, and and our core business is the supply and installation of water infrastructure. So we do for stock and domestic water supply for landholders. We equip bores. We provide pipelines, tanks, cattle troughs for the rural community. That's our core business. And in terms of our business, we say we're a really customer-focused business. Well, it's a bit of a cliche you hear, everyone says that, but we honestly believe, and we know, we've proven, that if you actually set out in your business to get the best outcome for your customer first up, so even though that gets a bit painful, and I think when you first start your business, it's very hard to maintain that regimented outcome in terms of the customers, because there's obviously financial pain that goes with that. But if you want the best outcome for your customer, you really look after your staff, you try to make it the best place you can for them to work, make so they want to be there. You look after your suppliers, the people that supply the equipment to you, so that you have great relationships in terms of the best deals that are available, cash flow, all those sort of things. You don't need to worry too much about the financials. The money will come. The business just generates itself. And, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but it's actually true. We've proven that over 20 years, that's the way it happens. What I wanted to talk about today was how there's some opportunities that can come up for you. So we're a business that's had been going for maybe 13 or 14 years in stock and domestic water supply. It's a pretty difficult business to manage in terms of it's a very seasonal product, what we do. When it's dry like it is now, it's good times for a business like ours. People need to pump water, equip bores, do everything else. When it rains, they don't want to talk to us, they don't want to know us. So it's a little bit of a difficult process to manage in terms of maintaining staff, maintaining stock levels, cash flow and so on. In 2009 there was a an opportunity for a big irrigation project for one of the gas companies north of town. We were asked to tender for that project as a local company, and if anyone's had anything to do with the gas companies, that's never an easy project, and we had to jump through a lot of hoops just to be able to pre-qualify to tender on that. That pre-qualification actually did a good job for us. It certainly lifted our the whole level of our business in terms of professionalism, in terms of quality management systems, in terms of workplace health and safety. So we, one way or another, pre-qualified to tender, and then we got the tender documents. And wow, did we get the tender documents? It really just scared the hell out of us. And honestly, it just all looked too hard. And we sat outside and had a beer and thought, do we really want to do this? And we pretty much made up our mind that we wouldn't. And then we were just discussing it with one of our suppliers who was hoping to get on, piggyback us on into this contract. And he said, well, look, if you blokes can't handle it, why don't you ever talk to a company down in New South Wales, a company called Leary Biz, who do this sort of work all the time. And they'd be more than happy to be involved. So we just rang them up, had a chat, seemed like a great bunch of blokes. We sent them down a copy of the contract. They said, yep, we can handle that. So we signed a memorandum of understanding within about 24 hours, which basically said, yep, we'll all get in, have a crack, and we'll go 50-50 in what we make. And we tendered for the project, and we won the project. And I can assure you that is a very, very long story short, because it was a pretty painful process, and we spent a lot of time, just countless hours and countless dollars to get to that eventual point. But we won the contract, and we did the work. I think we did a great job. I know we did a great job. It was a $4 million project. So for a business like ours, that was a pretty significant contract to win. But it really changed our whole business dynamic and our whole business profile. So it changed it in terms of our risk in terms of those sort of cash flows and those sort of contract amounts of money. We're moving into uncharted territory as far as we're concerned, in terms of staff, in terms of management, workplace health and safety, all the things. So our business, Pumps and Solar, has really lifted outside by taking on those outside contracts. So once we'd finished the job, we'd finished the work, completed the work, and then we all sat around having a beer and say, well, where to from here? Well, we're all together, we're all working pretty well. We sat down and identified some other opportunities or some other places that we could have used those skills that we had. We then decided to form a standalone entity company, and we called it Coal Seam Water Solutions, because at that stage of the game we were dealing in the coal gas sector. And we appointed a manager to the company, one of the fellows that was involved in the management of the project, and we gave him some equity, gave him a share in the company, which was a great start for him personally as well, and we got a lot of satisfaction out of that. That company now is a standalone company. It employs, there's 5 staff in the company, and it works on projects all over Queensland. And we've moved outside the gas sector to the agricultural, rural jobs and the horticultural work, and we do work up in the Burdekin, and we do work right across the Burnett and through the Lockyer Valley. And there's a great income stream from that business. So that's provided work for Pumps and Solar. So when they're out here doing contract work, we've got another big contract with Santos, we're just starting. It provides work for Pumps and Solar, which gives us a bit of surety in between our rural market. It gives us obviously an income stream external to our existing business, and it gives us a really good interest. Some of the projects we do are really interesting stuff, and it's good to be involved in that outside our your normal core. And it's certainly provided stability for Pumps and Solar. It's certainly because of our seasonal market, and it's certainly lifted our professionalism. So it's been a wonderful exercise over time, going from something we thought wouldn't have a chance of even doing to changing the whole dynamics of our business just by asking for some business partners to come in and help and work with them. Personally, I'm really proud of what I've achieved and what we've achieved as a team. my family, my dedicated family, who support me in everything we do, my business partner and business partners in that business and others, and our dedicated staff. You know, we really have a good group of staff, and we've tried really hard to make it a good place for them to work. I mean, you don't get it right every time, but we try our best. I think with our tall poppy syndrome in Australia, it's really, really difficult to celebrate that success openly. There's always someone out there that wants to catch you down, but in this instance here, I think it's really great to be able to just maybe talk to a group of like-minded people, to be able to just share that opportunity and those success stories and think, well, yeah, you know, you hear a lot of these stories, you see stuff written down, it's just good to be able to see that it is real and it does happen. And hopefully you can take something from this and make it work for your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. We are happy to be here and celebrate your success today because it's wonderful to hear, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to stand up in front of a room full of people and tell your story. So thank you very much for coming and sharing it today. And of course, Mark will be part of our question and answer session in a little while. So, a local, followed by a man from the city who actually has some wonderful country regional experience as well. Our last presenter, Ben Sorensen, is the Director, Innovation and Digital Change Lead at the Queensland Innovation Hub based in Brisbane for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and he's currently playing a really important role in innovating and improving service delivery to the Queensland community for the Queensland Government. Now, that sounds very corporate and very city. He is, but he also has an incredible knowledge and understanding of what happens out here in the country as well. He was previously a member of the Australian Agricultural Company, ACO, Executive Leadership Team, Strategy and Technology Leader. He looked after 20 remote ACO properties between Brisbane and Darwin, so very well versed in regional issues, including the constraints that you have and also some of the opportunities within the digital evolution. And he's been a busy man this week. He was with us yesterday at the Collaborate to Innovate conference in Brisbane, so he's been out and about and talking, and that's what he loves to do, and he does it very well. Would you please welcome from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ben Sorensen.
Thanks for saying I'm not just a city slicker. That's very good. I'd just like to firstly celebrate the humility. I think it's lovely in the bush. Nobody's arrogant. Everyone's out to have a go. I just think it's so refreshing and fabulous. And I think that's why you get ahead, because you're willing to have a go, and you don't think you don't think you're all that. And when you, like you said, Matt, when you get down, you've got to get back up. It's adversity and it's continuing on. I won't go into my story. I've done that. I haven't done it for Australia or anything like that. But it's I've been a paper millionaire, but I'm not anymore. So it's important to get up and have another go. So I think that's great to hear you guys talk. I'd like to thank the Minister for inviting me along today. It's a real great pleasure of mine to talk to people about innovation and how to do things differently, because at the heart of it, it's about helping people to, I think, have better lives, because small business is about people, it's about families, it's about lifestyle. And there are so many small businesses, micro businesses, which are women who might work just a few hours a day so that they can spend the time with their children and they can keep money coming in the door. So it's important to recognise businesses of all sizes and as small as they might be. Anyway, so I guess what I do is I help people build enterprises large and small, and to grab a hold of really strategic opportunities. And strategic's a big word, but it doesn't mean that the opportunities are massive. It means that there's an opportunity, there's a bit of strategy, there's a bit of something there you can apply, and you can get something out of it. And it's not just going to be helping you, it's going to be helping other people. And I do think business is altruism. And as you just said then, Mark, it's you do the right thing for other people and the money will come. So if you're just chasing the bucks, you're gonna get it wrong, and I don't think people do that here. I think if you're doing it for your customers and for your team, you'll actually that's what you're there for first. And if you keep that in mind, you'll go really well. So I guess my thing today is to really help you understand what's possible and within reach. And I think there's so much within reach. You're here in Roma. You're a long way away from the big smoke, but there's so much more at reach than what you realise. And just talking with people before today's session, I was, I think I lit up when I was talking to the girls about how they're dealing with the Philippines business services team, dealing with the Philippines. They've got teams, basically in New South Wales. It's great you're exploiting the New South Wales people as well. Disclosure, I'm a New South Welshman. But I think that's great. I think it's really good. And what you're building there is a funnel to bring all this wealth back into your community, and it's really important in times of drought and just adversity that goes on. And unfortunately, we see droughts here, every 3 or 4 years. That's just the way it is. And some work with the MLA. We did some research and we found that 80% of profits in the cattle industry are made in 3 out of every 10 years. That's terrible. That's a terrible stat. And they're all small businesses. And these people are staying on the land, and the challenge is how do they stay on the land. But I know it hurts the towns as well. So it's hurting you guys, it's hurting other businesses. And so how do you get a hold of other opportunities that are going to smooth those downtimes and help the town and help everyone stay here and keep coming back? Like I've spoken to people today, they've gone away to university and they've come back to town, and it's creating these opportunities for people. So, as we said, I used to be an executive with AACO. It's one of the oldest companies in the country, and it's a big cattle company, and it's got the same problems. We've got to keep people coming back. And right now I run the Queensland Innovation Hub, which is in Brisbane, and I've founded companies and I've run them, and I've had successes and I've had failures. And I took a few notes on my ideas into action. And I've realised that compared to Matt Hayden, I've got more luck than talent. But sometimes that's all you can get. You've got to use what you've got. But now what I do is I work closely with government and small businesses and larger business as well via that Queensland Innovation Hub. And one of the programs we were working on, it's not one of the minister's programs, but it's cross-government, and it's about trying to bring small business closer to government. The government's really working hard to change how they're procuring and trying to give more opportunities to small and medium enterprises. So the hoops that you've got to go through to qualify, like the hoops with the LNG guys and everyone else. I mean, it's difficult for small businesses. You don't know where to look, but the resources are out there, and if you start looking, you'll find them. And this Open Innovation Program, it's about helping government find solutions to problems worth solving. And I want to underline that, problems worth solving, because that's the essence of an opportunity right there. So yeah, problem and opportunity, they're two sides of the same coin. It's all in how you look at it. So I think that's the key for any business, and I'll give you an example on that shortly. But first I want to finish the discussion that you started this morning, Matt, and asked, well, what is innovation? What is digital change? And I think they're questions that people don't often ask. So I've got this hub in Brisbane, and these people all come through, and they don't ask. They never ask, and I think they're all expected to know what it means. But quite simply, innovation is just doing things differently to get a better outcome. That's it. That's it. I could probably sit down now. That's all it is. It's solving problems in a better way, and it's looking for those solutions. And the digital change part, I think that's really about technology as an enabler. And I've got this 23-year-old guy who's working with me. He's a really good guy. You met him yesterday, Richie. And I just realised he's on the start of his journey, and his bucket's this big, so I keep pouring in information, and it keeps overflowing, and I've got to slow down and go slower with him. And that's part of our roles as leaders in business, is to help the next generation come through. But I was saying to him, innovation and digital change, if it was 150 years ago, it was innovation and mechanisation. And everyone off the land knows that. So there wasn't the mechanisation. When it came along, productivity just took off. It's a big transformation. And we're on the cusp of another wave now, and that's this digitisation bit. So the technology bit's been coming, and computers have been coming, and the internet's been coming, and that's all great. But it's how are you now switching on? How are you leveraging this digital thing to help your business or help your family or your community to change? So I think the digital part's really just about tech as a tool that's going to help you to innovate, to do things faster, cheaper, and more effectively. But, it's a big but. I think that the reality is that 90% of innovation is really about people and it's not technology. I think it's about curiosity. I think it's about asking questions. And the questions I think are like, how can I do this differently? Is there a better way? There's got to be a better way. And everyone's been frustrated by a problem at work or at home or something like that. There's got to be a better way to do it. It's asking those questions. Mark, you said it, and this goes back to the humility. Who can help me? Who can help me? Because you're not alone, and often we all feel like we are alone. We're struggling with a problem. We don't want to talk. There's a bit of pride in it, and a lot of humility. But the thing that we found, we did this exercise yesterday with all these academics and all these business leaders, and it was about how research and industry, they don't collaborate enough. And we did this exercise to really just point out to them that you're all sharing the same problems. You all want the good things for your family, you all want to have success, you all want to not fail, you all want to be better than what you are, and you want to improve things, you want to improve life around you and for the people that matter to you. So I guess the point is that a lot of people share the problems that you already have, but if there's a specific business problem, there are a lot of people that share that problem as well. And again, back to that, there's an opportunity there. So then there's another question is who's already solved it and how? And the how bit I think is important because innovation is as much about borrowing or stealing ideas that work and adapting them to your situation and your particular challenges as anything else. It's looking around, it's figuring out what's happened and seeing how you can do that. So I know the agricultural industry in particular grabs a lot of stuff from New Zealand, seeing what they're doing. There's a lot of exchange, all those sorts of things. And I think keep looking. But it's not just agriculture that runs these towns. Agriculture helps the towns, gas helps the towns. But there's a lot of other things that are happening in here that aren't agriculture related and in the economy widely that Roma and other towns like Roma can get a hold of. So there's an idea I want to leave with you here, and I'm not finishing talking yet, but it's something I want to put in your head and write down on your notes. Hopefully you've been writing down some notes on those in your folders, some of your ideas, and that's innovation and digital change are just big words, and you can do it too. That's it. It's really easy. I don't tell everyone that because then I can't get the big paycheck, but that's what I think it is. So the first step is easy, and it's just to connect with others. That's as easy as it is, and you're doing it, you're here, you're talking, you're having some conversations, you're going out, and in the smaller communities it's a bit easier, but the problem with smaller communities is they're small communities, and you've got to reach out as well. So you've got to try and expand and talk to the other communities around you more widely, and the Maranoa and other regions, they all do that quite well. But it's also trying to tap into what's in the cities and bring some of that back. And beyond the cities, overseas, because with the internet you are actually able to contact and connect with people overseas extremely well nowadays, for anything you want. I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'll give you an example. A few years back, I had a bags company, not technology. We had bags. We had the license to make bags for FIFA. And how do you get that? Just luck. But we got this. We never owned a factory. Never owned a factory at all. We made all these things in China. We had about 10 factories that were full. This was for the South African World Cup. We exported globally. I just managed to know the right people at the right time, make some connections. We spoke. We talked about things that we had in common. Some had some money. We had to go out and find some more money. We raised some capital. We had no skills in the team except a handful of skills about manufacturing some stuff. We managed to put it all together over a few years and make some money on it. And we did this all from a small office on the Lower North Shore in Sydney. Sure, it's the city, but it's just a little office, and we did it all from there. And it works, and it's all international. We didn't bring a bag here or make anything here, but we could bring all this wealth back into the country through that time. We employed people through that. We employed 10 people. And I know I didn't take money home a lot of the time, and sure, a lot of small businesses are in that case too when you want to pay your staff. But I know that those staff always got paid, and they always had people that they were looking to feed and to support. So what I want to do is not talk about me. I'll give you a story about somebody else. It's somebody who's like you. He's on the same journey as you guys, and I love him. He's a great guy. He's a really humble guy, and I don't see him enough. Don't hold it against him. He's a sheep farmer, and he is from Victoria. But in July 2011, I started helping him out on something. We got connected through an investment fund, And his name's Dwayne Duxon. He was 44 then, and he had the same challenges as a lot of you do and a lot of the people around you do, and that is you've got weather that you can't control, you've got a dollar that you can't control, you've got prices that you've got to take because you're price takers rather than setters a lot of the time in agriculture. He had family wealth that was changing. His parents, they still own the farm, they're on the land. His brother was there, they wanted to retire and his brother wanted to keep farming. So they had this succession planning problem, which is pretty common in country areas at the moment. And he had a wife and son who wanted to live in town. So they didn't want to be out in the sticks anymore. Really humble guy, no uni degree. But he had a problem, he had a big problem, and he knew we could buy farm inputs better and reduce his costs. He knew he could get some better prices as well. So he was doing multi-purpose merino, so they're beef and wool, but he wasn't sure how he could. Do it. So Dwayne, like a lot of farmers, gets up at well before dawn. So he's listening to ABC, and he'd be doing that every morning. And he mulled it over, and then he had an idea. And what he did next was really what set him on the path. He drove off to the Big Smoke because where he was over in Horsham or somewhere around there, and he just didn't have many people around him. He went to the city. He went to the guys with the big suits, the city slickers like me, and he looked for some help to make his idea a reality. So he figured out he needed some cash. Not much, he only needed about 10 grand. The irony is he got 250. He needed some tech expertise, and he needed some help to make the idea real. So the upshot was, after 3 months, a bunch of field day visits, Dwayne launched a business called farmtender.com. I'm not sure has anyone heard of it at all, just out of interest, because I'll tell him. You have? Okay, cool. It's big in the southeast, way down south. Anyway, what it does is it saves farmers money on inputs and connects small businesses that supply farmers in those towns to those farmers. And it also helps the farmers sell stuff as well. So what it's doing, it's solving the problem of how do I, if there's $500,000 of input costs on the average property down there, if you could drop those costs by 1%, or you can increase the sales by 1%, that's a real difference. It's a real difference for sending the kids to boarding school, or having an extra few days of holiday, going water skiing or something like that for people that work really heavily on the farms and in those towns. So he thought that's the problem. He spoke to a lot of people and figured out, yeah, you guys are all sharing the same thing. But what's happened is in over 3 years, Dwayne has enabled over $30 million of transactions. So this was just a couple of weeks ago, they had the 3-year anniversary. He's moved off the farm into town. He hasn't put all the $30 million into his pocket, so they take a percentage of that. He's helped over 3,000 regular buyers and sellers to make money in their business. He's employed a team of 6 people with families, and I'm getting the wind up, and he's branched into other things as well. Now the thing is, he's from Yarrawonga. The internet down there is maybe 1 megabit per second. They didn't have the NBN down there. So you've got the NBN here, whatever degree of connection, but you can do it. It all started with a problem worth solving, a bit of curiosity, and asking who can help. And I think that's in reach of everyone here. I really do. So with that, I would just say, have a look around. There's plenty of resources for funding, for technology advice. There's plenty of problems. There's plenty of opportunities. And hopefully that'll get you thinking. So thanks.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you indeed. And it is an amazing story. We were speaking about that on the plane. So thank you very much for your story. And I know, sorry to wind you up, because we know we need to get some people moving as well. I would now very much like to invite the Minister back to the stage. She has a little presentation to give to our guest speakers today. So Minister Stuckey, if you would like to come back. We've got some lovely gifts for you to hand out.
I have a tiny apology to make too. I did not acknowledge all of the councillors in the room today. I do appreciate you making the effort to come here today, and it's been lovely meeting you. So would you accept my apology for not recognising you earlier? But it's always better to be saved till the end, isn't it? Spoken like a politician. And no one prompted me. I worked it all out We've got something small to say, a very big thank you, because as we know that small business does have a big future. As I said on the stage in Glasgow, that when we all get it right and we pull together, we actually know that anything is possible. And I think the stories in this little book, which we are going to present to you, certainly will tell you that anything is possible, but also that there's a lot, as I said, of heart and just hard work that goes into our small businesses. And we'd like to present you with a very limited edition copy, Mr. Hayden.
And for Mark, if you'd like to come.
Yeah, we haven't forgotten. His is even more limited edition because we're getting to the
This one's for the mayor. It's for Rob.
Yes. Our mayor. This is yours. The mayor.
And for Ben.
And Ben, we haven't forgotten you. See, the one in Brisbane didn't give it this. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Can I say a big thank you to Victoria? She's been just the life of this week, and nothing that we've asked of you has been too much. So I'd like to say a special thank you
Thank you for having
to
me.
you.
Thank you. It's lovely. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so exciting. I get to travel regionally quite a lot with work, and I absolutely love coming around our great state, and it's been a real pleasure and a privilege to be a part of the week. So thank you to your team and all of them who've done an amazing job this week for having me. If you should actually, Minister's Department team have all done the most awesome job. So thank you very, very much indeed. Now, you're most welcome to stay and to network and to chat amongst yourselves. Our guest speakers will be sticking around for a little while as well, so please come and see them. Bring your sheets, have a chat and tell them and ask those questions. Don't forget tomorrow, buy locally Saturday, which you can do very well in your own great town, part of the Queensland Government's plan for this week. So please think about that when you're out and about tomorrow. You don't probably have much choice, but it is great to be buying locally tomorrow. Thank the local stores where you do your business as well. Thank you very, very much indeed for your attendance today. It's great to have such a wonderful turnout here in Roma as we celebrate all that Small Business Week has done this week. We're going to take a little bit of a look at the screen at some of the great events that have happened across our state.
It might seem crazy.